I'm just gonna...
I'll try not to roll off in here.
Lots of diabetes plastics. Look at that shiny new pump tube. And we remove the adhesive and the safety cap. I'm gonna do it in my hip. I have scar tissue, as you can see. I have my lovely lady lumps. My lovely Eli Lilly lumps. Just gonna... Now your saliva's on it. So then I pull this back.
That thing looks so unpleasant.
It is. Put it approximately where that was. And squeeze.
You know, diabetes is really a disease which is perpetually about, you know, you're not doing this well enough.
Most people think they're overweight and just slow and tired all the time.
You're like fat and it's your fault because you ate cake. Their grandmother, their uncle who doesn't have a leg.
Oh, I have a cousin with diabetes, and so she has to like not eat too much sugar, or all of these things that, you know, those of us who know about this know that it's not really about sugar and that it's very likely the cousin has type 2 and it's a completely different kind of thing. But there's a lot of misconceptions out there.
Type 1 diabetes is a chronic autoimmune disease that occurs when the body's immune system mistakes islet cells in the pancreas for harmful bacteria and destroys them. Functioning islet cells secrete insulin, a hormone that regulates the amount of glucose in the blood. To replace the missing insulin, type 1 diabetics must perform multiple daily injections or use an insulin pump and carefully calculate carbohydrates. Only 5% of people with diabetes have type 1, which cannot be controlled or prevented with exercise or diet.
There is so much, like every single second of the day.
You know, you have to check your blood sugar. You have to see all of these specialists.
So you have to take insulin injections or through the pump.
You have to watch what you eat. You have to watch what you exercise.
Like I wake up and my site fell out in the middle of the night and now I have to change it and oh my gosh, my reservoir is out of insulin and now I have to think about that.
It is inconvenient sometimes, especially when playing sports and whenever I come in contact with doorknobs, because the tubing gets caught and it can rip out.
You know, I live a mile from here. Do I walk this morning? Well, my blood sugar's good, but I did eat this, and then I have a client and I have to think about this kind of stuff all the time. Or
it's always like in the back of my mind, you know, where it's like everything I do like has something to do with like, you know, I could think about diabetes every second of the day, basically.
But there's this theme of people who are often well-intentioned, but really, you know, poorly informed, thinking that they sort of have the right to sort of waltz in and scrutinize how you take care of your health. If my blood sugar is behaving and I feel healthy and I want to take some extra insulin and eat cake, I will do that. And I've had people say to me, you know, like, are you sure you should be eating that? Because you do have diabetes. Yeah, no, I know that I do. I have not forgotten. That is probably a comment coming from a very well-meaning, I'm trying to be supportive, I'm trying to understand, you know, friend or family member who's doing the right thing. And although sometimes it's nice to know someone is trying, that can also be an incredibly frustrating experience of like, no, that's not what we're talking about. Why does nobody understand this? Apparently, a third of people in this country are supposed to have diabetes by 2020, but that's largely type 2. And while it's great that attention's being brought to this, it gets very complicated for people with type 1, and we're this, you know, tiny little percentage. So it can be very frustrating.
A lot of people aren't as educated as I feel they should be, and it can also be a danger to the people with diabetes.
The delivery of insulin causes blood sugars to fall. A diabetic experiencing hypoglycemia, or severe low blood sugar, needs glucose, not insulin.
Or just like anything in the, like a big important like space that anybody else would get nervous about, like then I have to think about like how the nerves are going to affect my blood sugar, and then like all of a sudden I'm low and I sound like so unintelligent because I'm low and I can't figure out what to say.
Low blood sugar for me usually starts with like I get really warm and then I start to shake and like I just get really tired and kind of confused, and it just gets worse as I get lower.
When I'm low, I get really, really sweaty.
You know, people pass out, they can crash their car, you can feel really awful, you can embarrass yourself, which people worry about.
Being high causes a lot of different emotions than being low, and like for, you know, roller coastering all around causes lots of different emotions, and it's not something that I talk about with other people. It just like happens, so I like work really hard at hiding that.
Even with careful monitoring, perfect control is impossible.
Like occasionally you read these articles where it's like, this person runs marathons and has a 4.9, you know, A1C. And I mean, personally, I just want to punch them in the face. I hate those people. I mean, good for them, but it's like, I mean, I could eat the same thing every day, get up the same time every day, walk to work the same. My blood sugars will never be perfect. Your tubing will get kinked, or like you'll get some really low grade infection that you're not even aware of, but it's going to make you super insulin resistant.
Sometimes like I'm not going to be in control of it and I have to accept what it is.
Because you can't fully control it. And I mean, I've never seen anybody do it. You know, the best diabetes educators I know in the world also have weird, funky numbers. It just happens.
Like a million different things can impact your blood sugar. So Christmas morning, I get really high blood sugar because adrenaline. Exercising makes your blood sugar low, and so does like higher temperatures makes insulin absorb faster. Like stress causes your blood sugar to go up. I had an allergic reaction once, and I had to take a steroid shot, and it made my blood sugars crazy for a week.
Diabetes is a psychological as well as a physical disorder. People feel like they're not able to affect change, and they're not able to control outcomes no matter what they do or how hard they try. That's really what leads to burnout.
Basically, you just get sick and tired of having diabetes and dealing with diabetes highs and lows.
Because when you get really depressed and feel like you have no control, it's kind of like, well, look, I mean, what's the point of working this hard anyway? You know, I still have these 300, so if I'm going to be 300 anyway, and then my kidneys are going to fail and I'm going to lose my limbs and die, I might as well just eat ice cream all the time, sit on my ass and do whatever I feel like, because what's the point in trying?
Like, screw it. I'm going to do what I'm going to do because you just want to be like a regular person.
For people with diabetes, the future holds its own scary challenges.
You know, there is a lot of scary information out there about long-term complications. You know, basically, if you have type 1, you are at higher risk for pretty much everything medically complicating. And that can be a shorter lifespan, it can be amputations, it can be blindness, it can be kidney disease. And so there is a lot of anxiety about long-term complications.
I love putting my site in my hip, but now I have a lot of scar tissue there, and I'm only 23 years old. What am I going to do when I'm 43? And are there going to be enough places on my body to be putting my site?
There's anxiety about being able to take care of yourself, being able to do the things that you want to do in your life. People with type 1 have a much higher risk of depression, anxiety, and eating disorders. We also see a lot of comorbid drug and alcohol abuse.
It is a lot of pressure to know everything and make sure you can keep track of everything, and that adds to your stress.
You know, because you are typically diagnosed in childhood and adolescence, and because having type 1 means you have to approximate your insulin dosage, which means that, you know, you're going to take too much and need to eat extra calories to compensate, because by having type 1, you know, we all weigh 5 to 10 pounds more than we would otherwise, and that's just the way it is, and that kind of sucks. You're at very, very high risk for disordered eating behavior. About 1 in 3 women.
I do think diabetes is an invisible illness.
Like, I think people can see my diabetes sometimes, not always. Actually, no, I don't. I think people that really know me can see it because, like, they see my pump and, like, know that it's there. Like, if you can't see it because I'm wearing a dress, like, they still know it's there.
I guess if you know I have diabetes, you understand why I sometimes would look like sweaty and crazy and not be making sense.
Diabetes looks like anybody.
Like, I don't think I've ever met someone that I'm like, wow, you totally have a diabetes body.
It's a lot of behind the scenes stuff, like when you feel sick or you're low, like only you really know, so no one else around you really does.
I definitely have like the little beaties bump that like from like scar tissue. I don't know, like dresses and things, like when it's like, like you can see the pump, I like get a little bit annoyed about that.
You build up scar tissue and insulin pouches that they explained to me, and like it's pretty frustrating.
Lots of like little white marks and like my fingers, like lots of little black calluses, which aren't like so bad. It's like all the things that I don't notice, but then I'm like, oh, when I like think about it, when I'm around other people, I know that it's a lot more visible than I want it to be.
Awareness of type 1 is spreading. For November, World Diabetes Month, the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation encouraged people with diabetes to share their selfie with the hashtag T1D looks like me.
A sensor implanted into the side, and you can see right now my blood sugar is at 96. I wear my insulin pump full time.
Public figures like Olympic skier Chris Freeman and Miss Idaho Sierra Sanderson are increasingly sharing their stories.
So I wore it to show girls, and anyone really, that they can be confident exactly how they are. And just because they may deviate from what the media says is beautiful, it doesn't mean they're worth less or they're less beautiful.
And I think I'm sure you're getting a lot of attention for health issues as well, where there's kids struggling with the same thing going, okay, but she has one, I can wear one too, and I can be okay showing it off.
Yeah, exactly.
I wish diabetes was more visible, just because it would like make situations like the other day at work, like to be able to be like, I'm having a really hard time, like I need to take a break and like step back and like, or like go home for 20 minutes and like go get insulin and come back, instead of feeling like embarrassed about it, or like I made a really bad mistake not bringing insulin to work with me, or like to be able to be like, I'm sorry, I'm really low right now and I'm like interviewing with you and I need to go step away for 15 minutes and come back because like my brain is so jumbled. But like that's not something that I ever do because I get embarrassed about it. It would just be like so much less of a like shameful experience, I guess, if it was more visible. It just feels like an excuse, and I hate that. And like it's not an excuse because it is a real thing, but like I worry that if I say it to someone who doesn't have diabetes, that they'll be like, that's not real.
I guess if my diabetes were more visible, I feel like it'd be better because people would be more educated about it and more aware. But at the same time, like I like to think that I'm a person before I'm my disease. So if it was more visible, I feel like people would more focus on the fact that I'm chronically ill than that I'm me. People told me, oh, you won't be able to play sports right away, or you possibly won't be able to play sports regularly again. Like, well, I'm going to try it anyway. And I did it and I succeeded and I really love it. And I'm going to keep doing it for as long as I can.
Like I've always wanted to just like run a half marathon, and so I signed up for it and I'm doing it.
You can do anything anybody else can do. You just have to do a lot more steps. Together, we will open hearts and minds to the complexity and seriousness of type 1 diabetes and the demands that people impacted by this disease face every day.